The Minister of Justice comes and says, we are not amending. And the next thing, the President says, you have not even seen the amendments. And then you are saying you are denying what is there. Next thing, the Minister of Justice shows up and says, yes, in fact, we are going to amend the Constitution. So you see that there is no coordination within this government, and it practically starts from the head. It practically starts from the head. And this disease, we will continue seeing it until we change governments. Tabo Kawana is not just one. There are others who say things that are not true. The addiction to lies in this government is very apparent. And we are hoping that for once, within this last year, they could be truthful in their ways, truthful in their approach to national issues, truthful in terms of national development, truthful in upholding the rule of law, truthful in bringing up laws that are helping Zambians, laws that are progressive, and not laws that are there to perpetuate their stay or protect their ego. It has become apparent, I know I'm possibly talking too much because I haven't been with you in a while. It has become apparent that what has been happening, what we have been witnessing, is this government trying to prolong their stay in government, trying to protect themselves, such that those things that they are bored, those things that they seemingly spoke against, is what they are up to. You say Mr. Kawana gave us a statement that was not true and has been disowned. I would tell you that even the very Minister of Information himself, who disowned the statement by Tabo Kawana, gave a statement to say, once we get into government, we're going to do away with this cybersecurity law that is there, because we feel it is intended to guard people. What did they do? Now they even want to enhance it. Now they even want to go against anyone who posts a posting where they're expressing their opinion, which is against the government.
We will come to we'll come to the issue of the cyber, security at some point.
Exactly. But for now, I'm giving it as an example of the inconsistencies of this government, coming from the statement that Tabo Kawana had made much earlier, and has since been disowned by his own minister. And I'm telling you that this is a malaise, it's a disease that runs through the whole leadership of the UPND, from the president down to the ward councillor.
Right.
Yes.
So let me take you a little bit back. I know this might be a little uncomfortable and you don't want to talk about it, but let me take you back to the issue of the former head of state, ECL.
Yes.
And the part of the information that Mr. Tabo Kawana gave, maybe not everything could be dismissed, but maybe there is some truth to it. For instance, I want you to speak it from two positions. To what extent should the government discuss a matter of health, personal information of a former head of state? That's number one. To what extent? Number two, I know you have been with ECL in South Africa. To what extent is the government giving support to the former head of state?
Well, only to the extent that they take responsibility for him as a former head of state. Can they say things that relate to the former head of state? Now, let me break it down this way. We have a former head of state in the name of Edgar Chagwa Lungu, who is in active politics, served this country diligently for 7 years. Upon coming into active politics, government withdraws all forms of support from him. He's not paid, no allowances, he's not given security, nothing whatsoever. In 2022, when he desired to go for his medicals, they stopped him from going for his medicals. They stopped him from traveling. Were they interested in his health? This time around, when he did go, his trip coincided with the coming in of the rapporteur, the UN rapporteur.
Irene Khan.
Yes, Irene Khan. The very day she came is the day that he left. Possibly, and it is not far from fetch, that the only reason he managed to go is because the UN rapporteur was in the country. And we are made to understand that the moment he left the country, personnel at the airport were in trouble for having let him leave the country. But even when he left the country, the state did not know where he was, which hospital he was at. Even if you ask Tabokawana today to say, okay, very well, which hospital is attending to President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, he will not be able to tell you. He will not be able to tell you because he does not know. If you ask him where Madame Nawakwe was, he will tell you. If you ask him where Madame Vera Chilva is, he will tell you. But as regards where President Edgar Chagwa Lungu is, he won't tell you. He won't tell you because they have looked at him as political competitor that is threatening their stay in power. The vice president, all the vice presidents in Zambia are being paid today. President Nevas Mumba of MMD, who was former vice president, gets an allowance. Madam Inonge Wina gets an allowance. Kavindere gets an allowance. All the living former vice presidents are getting allowances.
Perhaps only Dr. Mumba is still active in politics. The other two, they are not active.
Yes, they are not active, but there is no law that provides for them to get allowances. You choose to deny a former president who should ordinarily be getting the support of the government, even assuming that it is okay to deny him all the other benefits as regards getting a salary or indeed allowances because he's in active politics. Shouldn't his medicals be taken care of? Those have not been taken care of.
How can they take care of them when they don't know where he is?
How can they know where he is when they are not interested in taking care of him? It comes back to them. So if they were interested in the health of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, they would have been interested right from the start. They would not have stopped him from traveling for his medicals. They would be right now knowing which facility they are taking him to. How much have they set aside for his health, without going into the details of what his condition may necessarily be. So I will be disinclined to discuss the health, the personal health of the former head of state, to the extent that in any event, the government itself knows what the position is. The minister did come in parliament and said, you cannot, or we will not discuss the personal health of the former president. What happened when people were wondering whether President Hakainde Hichilema was sick or not? The time there was allegations that he was in Mainasoko, heads rolled. People were threatened with arrest because they were discussing the health of the head of state, which ordinarily they're entitled to know. President Edgar Chagwa Lungu was not ashamed to tell the nation to say, listen, I am unwell and I am taking leave for my health to be attended to. He was never afraid. But this one thinks he's God, and when he's sick, no one should talk about his sickness. Like, it's an offense to talk about the president's sickness. There was a rumor that he has died, and you could see that Facebook was awake, and indeed the internet almost burst, where people were speculating as to whether he was alive or not. Some celebrating, some of course.
But of course that was wrong.
Exactly.
For anyone to assume that.
That's exactly what I'm saying. There's some celebrating and others expressing the how can I put it?
Displeasure.
Displeasure, as it were, against those that were expressing happiness, and others genuinely concerned about his health. So it should not be seen to seem like being sick is a taboo. It's wrong. We all get sick, and when we do get sick, let it be the person that is sick be the person to say, listen, this is my state, and I'm undergoing this, and this is this is how I would want us to go from this point onwards.
Right.
And like the cantankerous manner in which Kawana decided to go about this issue, that was uncalled for.
I know, Council, we have a lot of issues that we need to talk about within the very limited space of time.
Yes,
But permit me, before I move on from this, issue, to ask you to inform the nation, because many people hold a very misinformed position that President Lungu and President HH don't see eye to eye or don't speak. Now we've been made to understand actually they speak as brothers, they are very close, and they check up on each other. I mean, could you just crystallize this information for us, because really it has come as a breath of fresh air, and it was a source of contention amongst the two political divides. What's your reflection and what's your confirmation on this very interesting piece of information?
In all honesty, Pastor, it would be great if President Hakainde Hichilema and President Edgar Chagwa Lungu would talk. It would be great.
It would be great?
It would be great. It would be great because President Hakainde Hichilema would have an opportunity to ask President Lungu, how did you deal with the drought issues that were there? How did you deal with the shortage of food? How did you deal with the issues of electricity and load shedding? How did you deal with all these issues? How did you deal with the issue of debt? How did you deal with the cost of living? How did you manage these things? Now, I will tell you that the trajectory that our economy is taking, the trajectory that our agriculture sector is taking, the trajectory that the development of our infrastructure is taking, simply speaks to the fact that they are not talking. Because in light of governance, President Hakainde Hichilema is a novice. He's simply learning how to govern. The way he assumed would be the way to govern, he should have found out by now that that is not the way things go. And the only person so far living who has had the opportunity to run this country is President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. And President Edgar Chagwa Lungu has always been available. If I was President Hakainde Hichilema, instead of sending the police to go and grind his gate, I would go privately, knock on his gate and say, President TCL, let's drink tea. How did you sort out this issue? It would be President Edgar Chagwa Lungu who would be telling the Patriotic Front or indeed the opposition, say, listen, this guy may be leading us somewhere. Let us be able to talk to him and guide him, because he is genuine when it comes to issues to do with the economy, when it comes to issues to do with agriculture, rule of law. He is genuine in that regard. But that is not happening. That is not happening. So the long and short.
Are you telling the Zambian people that Mr. Kawana lied, that the President Lungu and President Hichilema do speak? You are saying he was lying?
Kawana lied when he said that. Because as a matter of fact, his own minister has disowned him. And his own minister has not stated which part of the statement he has disowned. Meaning that the whole statement has since been disowned. They don't talk. They don't talk. They just don't talk.
Very interesting.
It would be good if President Hakainde Hichilema would come down from his high horse and say, my brother, how did you run this country? Then things could possibly have been different.
Right.
Yes.
Well, let's move on. Zambia is a nation of issues, and we have one topical issue that has to do with the constitutional amendment. You are a constitutional lawyer, and I would like to hear, and perhaps not just me, the Zambian people would like to hear your sentiments around the current proposed amendment. Clauses, 13 of them,
yes,
by the government, and currently there is an encouragement for the public to discuss these things, because government would like to gather consensus, and the Minister of Justice has given out a roadmap, and this is something that is very topical at the moment. I'd like for you to just give your reflection on what has been proposed to be addressed in the constitutional amendment.
The Minister of Justice has not given a roadmap. The Minister of Justice has simply told us what the intention of government is, whether we like it or not. That is what they have done. As a matter of fact, this is not the point at which you give a roadmap. I was an ardent advocate for Bill 10. I appeared on different fora to discuss Bill 10. And from the time we started constitutional amendments in this country, it has never been done in the manner that the UPND are suggesting it should be done. The very things that they spoke against in Bill 10 are the very things that they want to bring in. It is for that reason that I'm saying that Madam Nawapwi was able to call President Hakainde Hichilema for who he is, a hypocrite. And this whole constitutional amendment debacle exposes that part of the leadership of UPND, the hypocrisy in UPND. It was President Hakainde Hichilema who says, do not touch Article 52. This article that talks about resignation of a person before the election. Do not touch it. Even if it is going to take us forever to get to a person that we want, so be it. That was his argument. He was being interviewed by Costa, and he said it plainly that he was not in favor of the amendment of Article 52. What has happened today? What has changed? What has changed? Hypocrisy of the highest order. It was him who said, do not do this delimitation exercise. He even quoted scripture saying, no, don't move the boundary stones that were set by our forefathers. It is sin, he said. Now he has decided to be a chief sinner to advocate for the delimitation. As a matter of fact, in his naivety, controversially so, Jack Mwimbo was on set saying we can change or put delimitation, or we can delimitate the constituencies without touching the constitution. We've done it before. I watched that debate in Parliament. I went through it again. I watched his interview to say, is he sure you can do the delimitation without amending the constitution, which sets a specific number of 156? Now, I wanted him to show us magic as to how it will be done, because he said it could be done without amending the constitution.